Meeting of the Chatham Rotary Club, and we want to first welcome JoDee and Kelly from Chatham Kent Children's Services, and they're going to be our presentation today. First of all, I'd like to start off with any happy thoughts, if anybody's got something they'd like to share with us. I've got a couple, so anybody else before I start?
I'd like to say something too when it's time.
Go ahead, Karen.
Oh, just that I did manage to make it out west December 27th to visit my sister in Vancouver. And we had a lovely visit. We went to a few places. Things are not quite as closed up there, but we wore our masks and we sanitized and we did all the things you're supposed to do. And we had a lovely visit. So that was my happy thought for December, January.
I'm glad you made it safely and made it home as well. Anyone else? Andy, please.
Yeah, not that interesting, but I had a little sunspot on my ear that wouldn't heal, and it turned out to be skin cancer. And I went to London last week, and they took a piece out of my ear, and then they cut me down here in the throat and took a piece of skin and put it up in my ear and actually sewed it in, holding it in with a piece of sponge. And I go back tomorrow and get it out. So it's good to get those things looked after. And
Definitely hope it all goes well for you, Andy.
That's what happened there.
Okay. I had a board meeting Monday night. Yeah, thank you. And just wanted to report, we finished off a Rotary bingo report that took us to the end of August. And we had $4,500 that had gone out in bursaries, scholarships, and supporting mental health. And on top of that, we put about $9,000 into the bank. Our ticket sales were down a bit from the previous time, but that's bringing us through the summer, and we usually go a little bit lower. So the next 6-month report will end, I think it's sometime in February, and we'll be doing another report. We'll give you an update at that time. Part of our large expense was the purchase of about 2 years worth of bingo tickets. That cost us in the neighborhood of, I think it was $11,000. So that came off of our profits ahead of that. So anyways, bingo does well, and it's thanks to a lot of people helping out with deliveries and ticket stuffing and counting and TV bingo each week on Cogeco. So that's another good news situation. Just moving forward, our birthdays this month, Terry Smith and Brad Langford. And then our club anniversaries are Barry Fraser, Charles Seaman, Doug Solman, Carl Veroba, Moira Kerr, and Tanya Sharp. Tanya's in here for 11 years now. So congratulations to those members. And I still have one check I need to get out with regard to our 12 gifts at Christmas. Somebody had been under the weather, so I've got that check in the office, and hopefully we'll get that to them tomorrow. But the 12 gifts at Christmas went extremely well. So the club needs to be proud of what they did. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to ask JoDee and Emily to take over. I'm going to try to share the screen, which means I'm going to pop into another place, and JoDee and Kelly will direct me when to make the necessary changes, I hope. Okay. JoDee or Kelly?
I'm going to start today. We're here to talk to you about a really important endeavor from our Child and Youth Planning Network. We are currently trying to ensure that our community is at the forefront of Ontario in the sense that we have data. So we still don't have the slideshow yet. Brent, are you able to bring it up?
Let me hopefully get it in place here.
Thank you.
And
If you want to just go up to slideshow at the top and click it, and then play from the start. Great. Okay, so what we're endeavoring to do, Kelly is the co-chair, by the way, of our CYPN network, Child and Youth Planning Network, and I am on the membership committee. So I've been talking to a lot of our community partners around our goals to improve our data in our community, or our ability to use our data. We have 2 project leads that are part of the committee. Carol Moore, who's the Director of Quality and Improvement and Atlantics from our agency, Chatham-Kent Children's Agency, and then Sarah Fraley-Bocart from the municipality, who's part of Employment Services. Next slide. Today we're going to talk to you about what the CYPN is, our Child and Youth Planning Network, the fact that we're drowning in data, our vision and data mobilization ideas, how we're starting small, our roadmap, and what we're doing to partner around this data portal. And if you have any questions. And Kelly's not saying a whole lot. She's going to jump in because she does have a cold, but she'll support me along the way. Next slide. So what is the Chatham-Kent Child and Youth Planning Network? We are a number of children's agencies in the community who are there to champion outcomes for children, youth, and their families. And we work very collaboratively. In fact, we like it best when people don't even realize we're separate agencies. We're community leaders. We're managing and delivering services to children all the way up to 21. And we are a network that plans in order to improve services for the children and youth in our families. So our shared values, or our pillars for our strategic plan, are family voice, because that's very important in order to make sure that we are actually providing the appropriate services, equity and access, data and knowledge mobilization, which we're going to talk about more. And certainly we want the right service at the right time as far as equity and access, and partnership and innovation. Next slide. So the issue is that we're all drowning in data. We have limited analytic capacity. Most of us are doing things on the side of our desks. We have lots of data, but we can't seem to get around to actually using the data, or organizing it in such a way that it's useful. We have accountability requirements for sure, which means that we hold a fair amount of data, and most of us use that data to support the individual initiatives that we do, but we seem to not be able to get around to actually turning this data into something that's more actionable. We know that this is important, and we know in order to advance Chatham-Kent and to ensure that we have the right services at the right time for all our children, youth, and families, that we need to have data, and we need to have it in a format that's usable. The problem is, if we continue to allow this to go on, we're going to find that our funding decisions aren't going to be driven by good data, and we will be left behind because other communities are actually far advanced in this area. There are several organizations who are working independently, and like census or other areas, and so we could combine all of this information in one spot and actually allow all of our agencies to access it. We'd have fewer silos, and families are asking us to coordinate and integrate our work far more. So what is our vision? Well, here's one example. Durham has been working on this for a while, and this is an example of what's available to their planning network. They can go on and get whatever they need on specific topics and then write grants or proposals or advocate even with the ministry or other areas to get what they need because they can demonstrate the need. Next slide. Here's another example. Halton, for example, has this huge network. It's called Our Kids, and they have it drilled down to communities. We have that ability. We have some data right now, our EDI, which is our developmental index. We have the ability to drill it down, but we just don't have the time or the ability to actually dedicate somebody to do this. Next slide. So the vision for their data mobilization is that children and youth are healthy, children and youth in their area are learning, they're positively connected, they're safe, they're strong and stable, they live, work, and play, and they're staying connected to the community. We would like all of that for Chatham-Kent. We are working very hard to achieve that, but we of course need help from the community. We need your support, both for this project as well as financial support to move this forward. Next slide. We would really like to move forward like England. They have advanced their data to the point where they have lifespan indicators. That is our ultimate goal. And here's an example of how they have it for their entire country. So that's pretty exciting. We're a little bit behind that in Canada, but we're pretty large in comparison. But it would be lovely to be able to advocate as a country. Next slide. So our roadmap. We have currently sent out a survey to find out about how people are coping with COVID. We originally called it a recovery, but it's essentially how they're coping and looking to recover. We've established some portal and a steering committee. We're looking at an agreement, and we have applied to several other grants, and we do have funding from many agencies, including Community Livings, Chatham-Kent Children's Services, the municipality. We have the school boards on board. They're looking to support this initiative, as well as our Ontario Health Network. They are also interested once we get through COVID. So we plan to build a portal, use our data so that we can actually advance the community of Chatham-Kent. Next slide. So how can we tell a better story? We need collective data. Have our service demands increased? We need to know what our kids and need most. We need to know who's accessing our services, who's waiting for services, what our pressure points are, what infrastructures needs we have, and where do we focus. So we need all of that, but we need to have data. Did you want to say something, Kelly?
I just wanted to give a little example for the group. And pardon me, I have a little bit of a cold. But just as an example, we are a large rural area. You all know that. Transportation tends to be an issue for some families that are out in rural areas. And we have, in the past, when we had Best Start, we had some neighborhood advisories, and we're hoping to go down that road again. So what's needed in Wallaceburg will look very different than what's needed in Blenheim or Tilbury. What's needed in Chatham proper is very different than what Dresden needs. So we're hoping with this data, it will help all agencies be able to go to one-stop shop to get what they need to either put in for funding grants, to apply to the ministry for things. An example of that is Children's Treatment Center with their new build, being able to have data to support their planning that really is true realistic data that tells Chatham-Kent's story and tells each individual community story. So part of this will be like, and JoDee spoke about the EDI, the early development instrument. That data all comes from our school boards. We have joint data already that we're using, but this would look at even more. So we all know that there's been an opioid crisis in Ontario, but around Canada, but in Chatham as well. It would be able to actually have emergency room visits data, police call outs, what that looks like. So we are better poised to serve the families and serve the community with what they actually need in their areas. So I just didn't want to lose that piece, because I know sometimes painting the picture really helps. And I can share with some of the data that we've collected. One of the pilots we did it prior to COVID was we heard physical health and well-being in the Dresden area was quite low. So we did a pilot with our recreation department, and we did a free program for summer program for a month. But this will allow us to do pre and post. So did that help at all? Was that helpful to families? Was it helpful to children and their physical activity levels? It allows us to have more direct information that will inform how we do our business. And when we're talking about agencies, like JoDee said, several agencies, we work very closely with most agencies that work with children and youth and transitioning into adulthood. So I just didn't want to lose that piece of the story.
Okay, next slide. So we are hiring a project coordinator, and interviews have happened. We do have enough funds to get this off the ground, and we're very excited. This person has been offered the job and will start shortly, so we can begin our project. But certainly we continue to need support, because none of us have dedicated funds for this, and we really need to ensure that Chatham-Kent is leading the pack rather than following behind. This is important for every child and youth and family in our community, and certainly makes us more attractive to newcomers, makes us more attractive to people returning to Chatham-Kent who have left because there are other opportunities. It also ensures that other people will look to Chatham-Kent to move here. So any question, next slide, which is questions.
Okay, I'm going to try to see if I can stop the share so that I can see our people here. Are there any questions that we'd like to, we'll start with Karen Kirkwood-White, please.
Thanks very much, JoDee and Kelly, for the presentation. I was just actually curious about what happened to the data consortium that began many moons ago. Is it defunct?
It's defunct. So Tiffany Adewell, our previous data analysis coordinator, had left the municipality. Karen Loney was the other co-chair on that. And what they did find, and I will share with you, I've talked to several members of that committee, and we do have a subcommittee off of CYPN that will be similar to the data consortium. Those data people will still be meeting to talk about how, what data there is and how to use it, and in their data way of speaking. But what they found is they were all doing it off the side of their desks. To create data sharing agreements and a data portal is a huge undertaking. It has to be somebody that is specifically earmarked to do that work for the entire community. So it can't just, and we were really creative when we thought about what this might look like. So the municipality is not housing the position, it's a community partner, it's KICS that will be housing it. But several partners, as JoDee mentioned, have climbed on board with $5,000 to $10,000 of support for this year, and then we'll see what kind of work we can do. But our hope is to keep this person in place until we have the data that we need. And I think you all know as well, when we have to do grant proposals or when there's some ministry dollars available, it's usually due tomorrow. Like by the time we get it, there's really quick turnaround times. And it really is a barrier to applying for some of that money that could be coming to Chatham-Kent. So this position will allow us as a community to go in and use that data to support some of the requests and grant opportunities that are out there.
Yeah, it'll be nice to have a couple of programs in the can when you hear about the funding availability. I know it's very, very similar to a conversation we had back in the late 80s about a social planning council for Chatham-Kent. And, the answer was, don't you even think about this unless you've got enough money to pay a dedicated staff person to pull it off. So, yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. When we first started having these conversations, I wasn't that optimistic. I knew what we wanted and what we needed, but it's really tough. People want to come to the table, but a lot of time won't come to the table with the funding that will support it.
Right.
And this time around, I will share the two, Sarah and Carol, who were overseeing this, and JoDee, who was meeting with community partners, really shared the information in a way that agencies knew how it would help them. So example, our school boards, they don't have dedicated data people. So when there is that information out there, they have nowhere to go to get everything quickly that they need. So this was what, and I had no idea they didn't have dedicated data people. So the fact that they joined in on this venture was thrilling, because across the province, you're probably not going to hear this. I think we are leaders across the province in our way of thinking and our collaboration and integration that we do in Chatham-Kent. You've probably heard that before, but it is very true.
I am well aware, and have been for many, many, many years, that we do much better than most on the collaboration continuum. Yes.
For all the right reasons, for the
Yeah.
children and the families.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Kelly. Paul, and then Allison.
Yeah, thank you, JoDee and Kelly. Yeah, my question is, what are other jurisdictions doing to deal with the same issue, to manage the data that you're talking about? Chatham-Kent can't be the only area that has this issue.
No, I think we've
And maybe
shared
sorry. Oh, go ahead.
a couple of them that we shared are leaders in what they're doing already. So that was Halton and Durham. I believe Kitchener has been doing some work on this as well. But what we're finding is people don't have the time to put into it all. So we find a lot of duplication. So I could be looking at doing a grant proposal, and we work closely together, so this wouldn't really happen with us. But another agency could be doing the exact same proposal, and we don't have that conversation. And that's what's happening in other areas. And we're trying to say, let's stop that from happening. Let's put one really good data informed proposal together and put it in, so we get that, whatever that service is for our children and families in Chatham-Kent.
And is there not any government funding available for this?
I'm sorry for laughing. No, we would, unfortunately, and I will say that we have some data positions in our own agencies, right? So Employment and Social Services, they have a data person that's specifically working in employment and social services around their data and how to inform their case managers and their homelessness prevention on how to do their work specifically in their area. Would they share? They probably would share some of their data, and they do. But sometimes agencies don't know where to go to get the data that they need for their whatever their submissions are, right? So this is just a better way of doing the work. And will the ministry fund it? No, but maybe there's a grant we can apply to with our data person to get some more money.
So it sounds like everybody's working within their own silos, as we often hear about, and this is a kind of an effort to have some communication or cross referencing between those silos.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That was the whole purpose of the data consortium when it was initiated several decade and a half ago, maybe.
It was a long time ago. It was a really good idea, but you can't just have two people that are leading the pack. You need to have buy-in from everybody, right? That if somebody leaves, somebody else steps up into that position, and that didn't happen, so we lost that piece.
And Allison, did I see your hand pop up?
I was just curious, very interesting information, and obviously data is key. If you're not measuring it, you can't manage it. But what type of technology are you using? Or are you using technology to collect this type of information, or are you?
We all have different technology. It's taken our data group probably the last 7 months to coordinate, because we have several streams in our community. We're an integrated agency, so we have developmental services, mental health, and child welfare. Each one has essentially different reporting and essentially different data. And so we've now been able to scrub the data and combine it. But so we have some expertise in our agency, but most of our reporting or funding for our reporting is based on what we have to report to the ministry internally. And we're all capped on central admin. So we cannot hire extra people with our current funds in order to capitalize on that extra funding. And to give you an example, I was on a call with somebody else around with Hamilton and what they're doing. They have 3 grant writers alone that are writing grants every day so that they can get money for their community. That's huge. And they have the data to do it. So no wonder they're leading the pack in some ways around getting some initiatives. But, you know, we have a lot of collaboration in this community and a willingness to share. And I know that we could get there if we just had a little bit of dedicated funding.
JoDee, a question for you. Are the types of statistics that you're trying to get, is it any sort of a program that either Halton or Durham have created that you can sort of purchase from them, or you still have to fill in all the blanks, I guess?
That's a real data question, and we have data people who are looking into it, but I suspect that there is some specific hardware that's required, and we did apply to the municipality, the community grant fund, in order to purchase those that hardware and some legal advice in order to get those data agreements so that we would actually have the basis for the portal.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And our data people will be working closely and doing that research to find out what's working elsewhere. What can we bring to Chatham-Kent that's not, we don't want to reinvent what's already happening. So that will be part of this person's role as well. Figure out what's working somewhere else that we can bring here without having to start and scrap everything and start all over again. So.
And do you find talking to like Durham and Halton, are they quite willing to share some of their information?
Yeah. Yes, we even had a presentation from them to tell us what they were doing.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question? Okay, I think we've got everybody covered. Kelly, did you have?
I just wanted, final notes. When we go to do these presentations, data is not exciting. People hear it and they go, but the work we can do with the data, and I'm not a data person, I'm an on the ground, let's make things happen. But we also know at the municipality with council, if we have data, it supports some of the initiatives that we're doing. If we can showcase what's happening, and I'm just using in Wallaceburg right now around young children and their health and well-being, physical activity, if we can showcase that to council, the data really makes the needle move. It really helps to support the good work that's happening in our community. So I know it's not the most exciting thing that you're going to hear about, and I get that, but I want to say the work that comes out of this data is very exciting.
Thank you. I was enjoying, looking at graphs and things, what was kind of interesting, but isn't it interesting that the UK kind of already has this in place, and yep, we're that far behind, I guess.
The other thing that the UK has is some really interesting formulas for affordable and permanent housing too, that we can't seem to implement here in Canada yet. So it is very, very frustrating.
Karen, one of your fans behind me is chuckling at your thoughts there, I guess. just she knew you might pop in with something there. So I'd just like to thank JoDee and Kelly very much for coming along and presenting to us. Very much appreciated. Some of us do enjoy looking at some data things. So, but thank you very much, Kelly, for pointing that out to us as well.
Thank you for your time.
All very much. We appreciate it. Have a good day.
And just to let you know, next week we'll be talking to Faith Hale with regard to reconciliation. And then the week after that, we'll have an AGM. So everybody stay safe. rate at this point, we're going to be continuing via Zoom, and it's the safest bet for us at this time. And we'll be hopefully getting back maybe in the February sometime, yet to be seen. So stay safe, everybody, and we will talk to you later.